Shalom, everybody. Welcome to this week's journey through Torah. We're continuing in the book of Vayikra, Leviticus. And as you can see, as you're following along in these studies, it's important to understand the differences between clean and holy and common. Even if there is no standing temple today, if Scripture says that you are a place for Yahweh to dwell, you are a temple for Him, then we still need to have an understanding of what He considers clean and holy and common, because these are things that keep us from Him and allow us to approach, come near. Now, we know, as we've been talking, that it is only Yahweh who can cleanse us. Okay, that's why it was such a big deal when Yeshua cleansed those with leprosy, because nobody can do that. Only Yahweh can do that. Only God can do that. So these are some things to pay attention to as we're approaching Yahweh, as we're developing relationship with Him. He calls us out. He calls us as a people to Himself. And because of that, it changes how we live, because it changes who we are. And we need to understand that living for Yahweh, walking in His Word, reading His Word, learning His ways, it's not just something to do. It's learning how to walk as He has recreated us, learning to walk as He says we are. You know, old things have passed away, all things have become new. So how do we walk in these new things? How do we learn to live in these new things? We don't know that. So we need to receive instruction from Him to tell us how we should walk. Now, this parsha is Kedoshim. This parsha is holy ones. So what makes us holy? Well, really, one thing, Yahweh, Him alone. It is He who makes us holy. Nothing else can make us holy. But now we're talking sanctification. Now we're talking to live a life that is set apart as holy. You are holy, therefore live that way, is what the Scripture is telling us. It's not a matter of Yahweh redeems you. He sets you apart. He calls you a holy people because He is holy. Now just go do whatever you want. No. Now we learn His ways, because it's His ways that help us grow in the earth, that help us fill the world with the glory of God, that help us live as He directed that we should live, in His Word, in His ways. Okay? So there's some things we've got to go through in here today, and of course the obvious being, you are a holy people. So now what? Right? Okay, let's take a look at it. Leviticus 19, 1 and 2. Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, "Speak to all the congregation of the people of Israel, and say to them, you shall be holy, for I, Yahweh your God, am holy." You see that? He says, you are holy because I, Yahweh your God, am holy. He didn't say, you're to make yourselves holy so that you can approach me. No, see, we can't make ourselves holy enough. We can't make ourselves good enough, clean enough, whatever, to fully come into His presence. But He doesn't just want us before Him. He wants to live in you. Okay, so the only way that's going to happen is if He sets you apart and He makes you holy. But because He does, that affects the rest of our life and how we approach everything. Because like we said, once Yahweh redeems you, it's not just, okay, now I need to learn some things to do. No, you need to learn how to walk as you are. Okay, you know, you may have heard that He loves you enough to meet you where you are, and that's 100% true. But He loves you so much to not leave you there, to transform you and bring you into the next step of relationship with Him. Peter puts it this way, 1 Peter 1, 14 to 16, "As obedient children, do not be conformed to the passions of your former ignorance, but as He who called you is holy, you also be holy in all your conduct, since it is written, you shall be holy, for I am holy." Notice this, that Peter says being holy will be evident by your obedience and your conduct. Being obedient to Him and how you live your life. Okay, so the first thing to recognize is He your God? Is He your Elohim? Is He the one that you truly serve? And if He is, then that changes how we do things. It changes how we see things. It changes our perspective on everything. Okay, now the first time this is in here, it says we are instructed to be holy because Yah is holy. The first time this is in here is Exodus 6, verses 6 and 7, where it says, "Wherefore say to the children of Israel, I am Yahweh, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. I will rid you from their bondage, and I will redeem you," see that? Redeem you with a stretched out arm and with great judgments. "And I will take you to me for a people, and I will be to you a God. And you shall know I am Yahweh your God, which bring you out from under the burden of the Egyptians." So what we have here is Yahweh saying, because I am Yahweh your God, because I redeemed you, because I brought you to myself, now live for me. Live as my people. I will be your Elohim. You will be my people. And again, that affects how we do things. 2 Corinthians 7 puts it this way. "Since we have these promises, beloved, let us cleanse ourselves from every defilement of body and spirit, bringing holiness to completion in the fear of God." So you see that? So he says we have a responsibility. Yahweh makes us holy, but now we need to learn how to live as a set apart people so that we do not bring further defilement to ourselves. Because understanding, once he redeems us and sets us apart as a covenant people, we're not just liable for our lives anymore. See, we have a relationship with Yahweh as one-on-one, a personal relationship, 100%, absolutely. But we also have a relationship with everyone Yahweh is in covenant with as a people, as a nation of people set apart to him. In other words, though our relationship with him is one-on-one, it is also as a people with him. See, and that should change how we treat one another, how we affect one another. We live as a covenant people. It's not just, oh, I'm in covenant with Yahweh and nobody else is. No, see, all who have come to him are now in covenant with him. So we need to learn to see each other as a body of people and learn to bless one another and to be kingdom-minded, building the body and stop fighting the different parts of our body. We need to help build up and edify the parts of the body. You know, give it the vitamins and the minerals and the supplements that it needs, right? Help build up one another so that the body can flourish as it's intended to, right? We need to stop seeing ourselves as individuals from wherever we're from and see ourselves as a people set apart to Yahweh. Ephesians 2 puts it this way, really the whole chapter, but just emphasizing on these couple verses here. It says, "For we are his workmanship, created in Messiah Yeshua for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. Therefore, remember that at one time you Gentiles in the flesh, called the uncircumcision by what is called the circumcision, which is made in the flesh by hands. Remember that you were at that time," look at this, "separated from Messiah, alienated from the commonwealth of Israel, strangers to the covenants of promise, having no hope, and without God in the world. But now in Messiah Yeshua, you who once were far off have been brought near by the blood of Messiah." Okay, when we say brought near, we say brought near to what? We say, well, brought near to God, and you would be right. But specifically, what does it say? That these things that we were removed from, we are now brought close to. So what are those things that we are now brought close to? And you'll see in there, we are to be a part of the commonwealth of Israel. Not replacing anybody, but coming in to join with, to be a part of a people set apart to Yahweh in covenant and promise. Okay, so that's going to change how we see things, how we do things, and how we live, right? So we need to stop and consider, do we serve Yahweh for who he says he is, or do we serve him for what we think we can benefit from him? A lot of people will come to Yahweh and say, well, I will serve you if you do these things. Essentially what we're doing is we're making an idol to ourselves to function the way we want it to function and calling it Yahweh. All right, that's not how we're to live. We're to live in covenant with him. You're not setting up a contractual agreement with him. Hey, if you do this and I do this, then we're good. But the minute I stop benefiting from what I've set up, then I'm not going to walk anymore with you. We're going to, that's a breach of contract. No, there is a difference between contract and covenant. Okay, we see a lot of things around us as a contract, when really life with Yahweh is a covenant. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs puts it this way in his book Morality. He has a good portions in it, and he puts it this way: a contract is a transaction A covenant is a relationship. A contract is about interests. A covenant is about identity. You see that? A covenant is about identity. That is why contracts benefit, but covenants transform. A covenant creates a moral community. It binds people together in a bond of mutual responsibility and care. What matters in a covenant is not how big or small is the group thereby included, but the commitment. It is undertaking of responsibility for others, knowing that they too undertake responsibility for us. In a covenant, what matters is not wealth or power, but the transformation that takes place when I embrace a world larger than the self. Covenants can heal what markets and states sometimes harm. You see that? So, in other words, we are a covenant people, and we need to look out for one another. We need to help each other out. We need to be kingdom minded. We need to understand that each other, we are parts of the body to help build each other up. And all this because we are looking toward the one who redeemed us. We are looking toward Yahweh in the midst of the camp, or in the very center of you. He is within your heart. And because of that, we're going to look out for one another. We're going to be kingdom minded, understanding that the world is watching you to see the God that you serve. Now, you can say, well, that's not right, but it's what happens, isn't it? People will look at you, and by your conduct, by your actions, words, behavior, they will make judgments about the God that you serve. So we do have some responsibility there, because Yahweh tells us that we are to live in covenant with him in a way that when people look at you, they will testify of the goodness of the one that you serve. So there is some responsibility toward one another and learning to live this out, right? Yahweh says this in Leviticus 10:3. Moshe says to Aaron, "This is what Adonai spoke of, saying, to those who are near me, I will show myself holy, and upon the faces of all the people, I will be glorified." Then Aaron kept silent. It's interesting. The context of this is right after Nadav and Avihu offered strange fire before the Lord, and they were consumed. They were dead. And Yahweh is saying here, through those closest to me, I will be sanctified. In other words, if they stepped outside of the provisions of what they were anointed to do, their place within that covenant, and they're supposed to be the ones to be close into the presence of Yahweh, to function within the tabernacle, if they do not regard him and listen to him very intently, what's that going to do for the rest of the people? In other words, to those who are closer, there's more responsibility and more accountability to how you live your life, understanding who you live it for. You either going to honor his name or profane his name by your conduct. Okay? Exodus 20 verse 7 says, "You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for Yahweh will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain." Psalm 139:20 says, "They speak against you with malicious intent. Your enemies take your name in vain." Again, is taking his name in vain just how you say it? I don't believe so. Taking his name in vain could be living or doing things in a contrary manner to his character. Doing things in a way that does not show him properly. Doing things in a way that causes others to not bless him. That could be profaning his name. Because name is not just what we call somebody. Someone's name is also their reputation and their character. So that's more things we need to understand. Leviticus 18:21 says, "You shall not give any of your children to offer them to Moloch, and so profane the name of your God. I am Yahweh." See that? It's not just a matter of how you say or pronounce his name. It's a matter of what you're doing. All right? Leviticus 19:12, "You shall not swear by my name falsely, and so profane the name of your God. I am Yahweh." Again, about the actions. When you swear by his name falsely, and then you don't follow through on what you have said, you profaned his name. Leviticus 21:6, speaking of the sons of Aaron, "They shall be holy to their God and not profane the name of their God, for they offer Yahweh's food offerings, the bread of their God. Therefore, they shall be holy." And Leviticus 22 says, "So you shall keep my commandments and do them. I am Yahweh." Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. "And you shall not profane my holy name, that I may be sanctified among the people of Israel. I am Yahweh who sanctifies you, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Yahweh." You see that? He says, I brought you out. I sanctified you. That means I set you apart. I did that for you. Not what you did. I did that. But because I did that, then you have some responsibility in how you live your life now. Okay? Isaiah 48:9 says, for my name's sake, I defer my anger. For the sake of my praise, I restrain it for you, that I may not cut you off. Behold, I have refined you, but not as silver. I have tried you in the furnace of affliction. For my own sake, I do it. For how should my name be profaned? My glory I will not give to another. Listen to me, O Yaakov and Israel, whom I called. I am he, I am the first, and I am the last. Again, profaning his name or honoring his name ties into what we're doing about it. Okay, Ezekiel 36 verse 20 says, when they came to the nations, wherever they came, they profaned my holy name. How so? In that the people said of them, these are the people of Yahweh, and yet they had to go out of this land. But I had concern for my holy name, which the house of Israel had profaned among the nations to which they came. Therefore, say to the house of Israel, thus says the Lord God, it is not for your sake, O house of Israel, that I am about to act, but for the sake of my holy name, which you have profaned among the nations to which you came. And I will vindicate the holiness of my great name, which has been profaned among the nations, and which you have profaned among them. And the nations will know that I am Yahweh, declares the Lord God, when through you I vindicate my holiness before their eyes. See that? He says they're going to look at you and either profane the name of Yahweh or glorify it. Ezekiel 39:7, my holy name I will make known in the midst of my people Israel, and I will not let my holy name be profaned anymore. And the nations shall know I am Yahweh, the Holy One of Israel. And 2 Corinthians 7:14 says, when my people over whom my name is called, people called by my name, humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their evil ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and I will heal their land. See that? People being called by his name. It's not just, again, how we pronounce and say his name. It's people who are living according to his character, people in covenant with them. Even like a marriage. In a marriage, one takes the name of the other, right? So here, guys, we are taking on his name when we enter into covenant with him. We're supposed to be a bride, right? We are taking on his name when we enter into covenant. Now we need to live in a way that honors that name. Look at this, Acts 15:16. After this, I will return and rebuild the fallen tabernacle of David. I will rebuild its ruins and I will restore it, so that the rest of humanity may seek the Lord, namely, all the Gentiles, the Goyim, the nations who are called by my name. See that there will be those in the nations called by his name, says Adonai, who makes these things known from of old. See that? So even those in the nations called by his name, who are those? Those who have repented and come to faith in the one true God. Those are the ones who are called by his name in the nations, and they will come and be a part of a covenant people that is set apart to the Most High. Matthew 5:16 says, in the same way, let your light shine before men, so that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. See that? They're watching you. 1 Peter 2:12. Keep your conduct honorable among the Gentiles. Again, that's the nations. Then while they speak against you as evildoers, they may, from noticing your good deeds, glorify God in the day of visitation. Interesting how in Matthew 5, he says that let your light shine. And then he goes right after that says, don't think that I've come to do away with the Torah or the prophets. I've not come to do away with, but to fulfill. That means to cause to stand firm, to reinforce, to show you the proper way of handling them, right? And so here he's saying, let your light shine. How do we do that? By walking in accordance with his word. When we're walking according to his word, we're walking in his ways, which is a revelation of his heart that he gave us, right? Let's keep going. Leviticus 19:14. Again, talking about our actions and behavior. You shall not curse the deaf or put a stumbling block before the blind, but you shall fear your God. I am Yahweh. Even in that, I believe this is both physically and spiritually. You know, where it says, curse the deaf or put a stumbling block before the blind. Don't curse the deaf. Those who can't hear, are you trying to help them? You trying to help open their ears? Those who can't see, are you trying to help them? Or are you digging pits for them? You just causing them to fall and to stumble? Or are you trying to help them navigate through life and showing light to them, showing the way of Yahweh, and giving them words that help build the body, words of life, words of the one true God, right? And then what we're supposed to be doing to help open blind eyes and open the ears of the ones who can't hear, and help give the words to those who can't speak. I mean, all of this is what we're supposed to do. Luke 6:39. He also told them a parable. Can a blind man lead a blind man? Will they not both fall into a pit? The disciple is not above his teacher, but everyone, when he is fully trained, will be like his teacher. So why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, brother, let me take out the speck that is in your eye, when you yourself do not see the log that is in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the log out of your own eye, then you will see clearly to take the speck out that is in your brother's eye. See that? So again, matter of conduct and how we treat one another and how we are to live life as a set apart people. We're to help build each other up, not tear each other down, right? Continuing on, Leviticus 19:16. You shall not go around as a slanderer among your people, and you shall not stand up against the life of your neighbor. I am Yahweh. You shall not hate your brother in your heart, but you shall reason frankly with your neighbor, lest you incur sin because of him. You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against the sons of your own people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am Yahweh. See that? Because you belong to the Most High, it affects how you live your life with each other. Okay? Mark 12 says this. Yeshua says, the first of all the commandments is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. This is the first commandment. And the second is like, namely this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There's no other commandment greater than these. Wow. So what does it mean to love your neighbor as yourself? Well, Leviticus 19:18, what's being quoted, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am Yahweh. And literally, ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha ani Yahweh. Literally, you are love to your fellow like yourself. So can the Torah legislate an emotion? No, not really. But this speaks of your behavior and your action, not necessarily just a feeling. Okay? So love towards your neighbor. In other words, there's an action involved in it. You have to show that. Okay? You can't just let it go unsaid. You have to show the action. How do we do that? By how we live with one another, how we build each other up, and how we help each other out in that, right? Common thing, one of the commentaries from that we see, ancient commentaries, is talking about Hillel and Shammai and the differences between the two. The Extreme Reader's Digest version of this is that there was a pagan who was desirous to serve Yahweh. He wanted to serve the one true God. And he says, he goes to Shammai and he says, teach me the Torah. And there's different variations of the story. You know, one says, teach me the Torah while I stand on one leg, kind of a thing, right? In other words, he's just saying, where do I start? How do I do this? How do I serve the one true God, right? And Shammai basically, how dare you, and beat him away. You know, how dare you come in this manner, and all right. But Hillel says this, what is hateful to you, do not do towards your fellow. This is the entirety of the Torah. The rest is commentary. Now go and learn the commentary. In other words, start here, but don't stop here. Start here and take it step by step. And as you live your life, you'll grow. And as you continue, you will learn. So how do you serve Yahweh? First off, consider one another. Look towards the benefits of one another. Look toward helping out. Again, being kingdom-minded, right? Yeshua says in Matthew 22:37, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your mind. This is the first and great commandment. The second is like unto it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Look at verse 40. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. He didn't say, if you just do these two things, That's all you got to worry about. No, what he's saying, if you do these two things, then understand that the entirety of the Word of God is built on these two things. Everything else can fall in one of these two categories. Everything that Yahweh has called you to is either an expression of loving Him or loving one another. And so that is how we should start to think. You know, is the actions of my life and how I'm living my life, how I'm treating one another in personal reactions and on social media too, guys, how we're treating one another on these. Is this showing the heart of Yahweh to Him and to each other? Or are we too busy fighting, arguing, backbiting, and are we need to build each other up? And I'm not saying, never bring any correction. What I'm saying is a lot of times we tend to move from an area of pride or arrogance and just kind of throwing out, no, you're wrong, and you have to see it my way. But sometimes understand where we're at now might not be where we're going to be 5 years from now. Okay? Ideally, we grow every day. We're learning. We're taking another step. We're doing all of these things. But we have to be careful how we treat each other in that process. Okay? It's not just about what you know. It's about what you do with what you know. It's about how you handle what you know and how you handle others around you with what you know. That is going to show the heart of the Father. And that's what we need to work on. All right. So, guys, that's all we have for you today. I hope that this has been a blessing to you. I hope it's been an encouragement to you. And I hope it challenges you as well. That's the goal, right? That we learn to change, that we continue to seek the heart of the Father. So if that is the case, please share these teachings out on whatever avenue you watch or listen, whatever it may be. Share it out there to help get the word out there. And if this has been a blessing to you, please consider making a donation to help us continue to keep these videos in production, to help keep these things moving. All right. So that's all I have for you today, guys. And until next time, be blessed and shalom.